Hi guys, my name is Bernardo Faria. I'm 3-time world champion as black belt.
Started with Craig Hookhook. How did you find Craig?
Again, you know, my friend Bill Salerno, he suggested we go take a private lesson with him, and that's what we did. So that was, boy, oh boy. I think it was in like the Leonardo Fire Department. or no, maybe some Gold's Gym down in South Jersey, because, you know, back then they were just kind of, you know, renting a place here, having a class there, and whatnot. You know, Jiu-jitsu was in its infancy in the United States, that's for sure.
You talked about when you started Jiu-jitsu when it's relative its infancy in the United States, and a lot of those times people were challenging the effectiveness of Jiu-jitsu, especially when the traditional martial arts guys were like, "Oh, Jiu-jitsu doesn't work. It's a bunch of guys just hugging each other." Do you have any old school stories that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I got a couple of stories. I had you know, I had arranged a seminar with Renzo, and I had sent out some posters to, you know, local karate schools and stuff, you know. So I got a phone call from a guy, and he said, "Hey, you know, I got your poster." And, you know, I'm like, "Oh, cool, you know, you're going to bring some guys to the seminar?" He goes, "No, I'm coming to your school, and you're going to rip that poster up in front of me." And I'm like, "Well, come on down." So he came down with about 5 or 6 guys. I put 5 or 6 of my guys together, and we had a couple of wars in my old school. So, you know, they were challenge fights, no rules, just
old school Gracie in action. Right?
Yeah, man, it was pretty cool. I could dig those tapes up somewhere, but yeah, they're archived. But yeah, it was pretty cool. And some of the guys, you know, I went right to the academy, you know, and I showed everybody my tape of like, wow, these guys came to challenge us, man. And I used jiu-jitsu, and I whooped their butts. And a couple of my students, and as a matter of fact, like Carl Massaro was there, Louis Vintaloro was there. I mean, the guys who 20 years ago were training jiu-jitsu.
George, I've known you for about 10 years now. I was one of your early students. After about 6 months of your school opening, I saw a sign on the side of the road that said, "Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, call this number." I called it, and my life has never been the same, and in a much better way. I don't know what I would be doing if it weren't for the sign that you had on the road there. Maybe I would be doing Jiu-Jitsu, but maybe I wouldn't. You've changed my life. The school's changed my life. The people I've met, places I've been, things I've learned, the confidence I've developed. I'm 46. I feel like I'm 26. Thank you, and congrats on the 10-year reunion, 10-year anniversary. Thanks, man.
So before Renzo came aboard, I guess you met Renzo when Hookhook brought him from Brazil.
Right.
What was your first impression of Renzo?
Man, the guy was just as friendly to me as if I had known him all my life. He made me feel like I was one of the guys, and you know, he's a very dynamic person. Whenever you meet Renzo, and I've seen him in circumstances where he's busy doing things on it that would benefit him, and anybody who comes up to him and wants to take a picture or shake his hand, or he'll stop what he's doing and he will turn to that person and give him or her his undivided attention and satisfy them. And really, you know, he's very magnetic in a sense that whenever he's around, great things always happen.
Yeah. So you were a blue belt when you opened your school, right?
Yeah.
At that time, everyone aspired to be blue belts. They were sure like gods, because you started like, what was it, like in 1990?
94, September 21st. So actually tomorrow will be my 20-year anniversary to my first Brazilian Jiu-jitsu class.
Wow, how was your first Brazilian Jiu-jitsu class?
How was it? It was an eye-opening experience, to say the least. You know, I considered myself to be, you know, a pretty good fighter, but you know, I was getting beat up by 15-year-old kids who had 6 months of jiu-jitsu experience, and you know, a couple of friends of mine that I originally brought with me to start training were kind of in refusal. Like they were like, wow, you know, I'm not going back there. Like, you know, that was ridiculous. And I spoke to them. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. We just got our asses kicked by people who have only been training this martial art for 6 or 8 months, and we're all like seasoned black belts, 3rd and 4th degree black belts. So I need to learn this. This is where I am, you know, moving my training to, because I know I don't have really a ground game. And you know, a while back I actually had a fight with a wrestler, and it happened to be in a stairwell. It was not a good time, and you know, I was lucky to get away from the guy after you know, being able to kick him in the head pretty hard. But I have to say that, you know, I knew there was a huge flaw in my fighting. You know, as far as a stand-up, you know, competitor, I was pretty well known. I was pretty good, and I just knew that if I went to the ground, I was a fish out of water. And I have to say that in the beginning, when I started learning the ground game, my striking became much more effective, because I wasn't afraid to lose my balance and slip and fall or anything. And I knew that if I did, I was just as comfortable on the ground. So I think it enhanced my entire experience as far as stand-up as well as the ground game.
Hey guys, Garrett Goldsberry, North Jersey Mixed Martial Arts, Lafayette, New Jersey. We're here at Team Renzo, Gracie, Denville, George Sernack School. It's his 10-year anniversary. It means a lot to me. I walked in these doors 6 months after he opened. Me, myself, and Professor Dan Fryer were George's first professors that he promoted to black belt. And it's amazing to see 10 years later. A lot of people have come and gone, but there's still a great group of guys. Brown belts, purple belts, tons of black belts. As you can see throughout the video, there's a great atmosphere, and Renzo Gracie is a great family to be a part of. So I just want to say congratulations to you, George. We all love you. Professor, you're like my big brother, my father, and we love you, and good luck in 20 years more.
You've been a student in martial arts for 25 years now, and competed in a lot of high levels, especially no-gi competitions. You've won some titles, actually in recent years too. How do you stay in shape, being in the older category?
Well, I'm 53 years old,
right.
And you know, I have to say I never really let myself get out of shape. I've always been a, you know, pretty decent athlete. I worked out, you know, I guess since the time I was maybe 18, 19 years old, lifting weights or doing whatever, mostly, you know, taekwondo or karate, some martial arts. But I feel that this is, for me, an all-around way to keep not only my mind strong, but my body. And in the years that I've grown older, I've actually been able to increase my flexibility and my muscle mass, and you know, I'm hoping that I'm going to live to the ripe old age of 100 and still be on the mat. I promised my students that I would be here forever, and that my bones were going to be buried under the Renzo symbol here. And because after we had our flood and everything got destroyed, I got wiped out. I wiped out my entire life savings to rebuild the school, so I said I couldn't afford a funeral, and that's where my bones were going to be.
Well, actually, you know, it's a good transition right now. Speaking about the flood, in 2011,
yes,
with Hurricane Irene, your school was pretty much destroyed, decimated in that hurricane. What was that like for you, and how did you overcome those hurdles and barriers?
You know, I've never been a quitter. You know, anytime I've been presented with a challenge that I thought was worthy, I took it head on. That was something my father had instilled on me, and my mom too. You know, my mom came up from a very rough upbringing, and she, I think, really is a very strong person, and gives me a lot of power. I talk to my mom every night before I go to bed. And yeah, my family, I think from my family, have instilled that in me. My brother too, he's a very strong-willed person.
So you've been teaching for quite a long time now, given that you're third-degree black belt now?
No, I'm still first-degree black belt. I got my black belt about 6 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was a blue belt for about 8 years.
Blue belt for 8 years. Wow.
Yeah, I was.
Right there.
It may be. You know, I have to say I was really a blue belt for a long time. I did miss some time training. Bought a house, kind of built it, and you know, about 2 years of that 8 years, I really wasn't, you know, on the mat. I would roll here and there, and you know, but not really train.
How have you seen your teaching, your personal teaching, evolve from, let's say, when you first started teaching, where it was like it's go,
right,
and now it's more, okay, I have to teach for my students. How have you seen your teaching evolve since then?
Well, I kind of think that, you know, teaching the stand-up and the type of self-defense, it was a lot of techniques. You taught a lot of things, and some of them worked for some people and some of them didn't. In Jiu-Jitsu, we teach 2 or 3 techniques, and we take a long time to explain the details. And from that, less has become more. We've been able to build a stronger foundation with less technique and better instruction, rather than kind of, you know, hurry up and, you know, learn this and learn that. And, you know, you learn 10 or 12 techniques in an hour, and man, can you walk away with 1 or 2 of them? So why not teach 2 of them correctly? And that's the Gracie way. That's what I learned from Renzo, is that, you know, it's better to give less, to teach less moves, but to give more instruction on that and details.
George, my brother, congratulations on your school, looking beautiful. And it's amazing to see like a long way, you know, back in the day when I was here 10 years ago. It's awesome to see you over here doing so great. Good job, man.
I guess when the difference between teaching jiu-jitsu and teaching like a kickboxing, that you can pretty much not master, but be proficient at kickboxing in 3 months, in 6 months. But in jiu-jitsu, it's like, to be proficient in jiu-jitsu, it takes like years.
Right. Well, we have a saying, you know, the truth is always told on the mat. You know, you could look at a guy like Mitch Green run away from Mike Tyson for 15 rounds, or maybe it was 12 at the time, but it was still 15 rounds. So, you know, a good stand-up fighter could do well against a great stand-up fighter by not actually fighting him. You get on the mat with somebody, and there is nowhere to run. You are as close to that person as you will ever be to any other person. And you will tap when he makes you tap, or you'll get your arm broke or go to sleep.
So, so Real World Martial Arts, Renzo Gracie Denville, after the flood, now we're 3 years later after the flood.
Right.
When you're pretty much back in full force. You're running your full schedule again.
Oh yeah.
And everything like that. And even today we're here, we're celebrating your 10th anniversary. Have you imagined that this day would come, the 10th anniversary?
It's a dream come true. You know, this is everything to me. I love jiu-jitsu, I love martial arts, and I'm dedicated to this for the rest of my life. And I now have a 2.5-year-old at 53, and I'm hoping that, of course, he's going to get into it. And when he comes home from his trip, he's away with my wife, we will be starting a Brazilian jiu-jitsu program for 3-year-olds.
For 3-year-olds?
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
It's pretty rare to see.
I'm going to give it a shot. It's probably not going to be a whole lot of instruction. It's going to be a lot more, you know, playing games, having fun.
Right.
And I have quite a bit of students and family members here that have these, you know, say, you know, 3-year-old kids, and we're going to give it a run, man. It's going to be a great time. I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. What kind of programs do you run besides Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
We have kickboxing, fitness kickboxing, Muay Thai kickboxing, children's classes, and I guess that's about it. Yeah.
You have a self-defense course too?
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We did start recently a real world street combatives, and I have a very good friend of mine who's one of my blue belts. He is a 10th degree black belt under Peter Urban, probably the guy who opened the first martial arts school in America, and a 6th degree in judo, and he also taught the West Point cadets self-defense for 13 years. So he does our gun and knife self-defense, and my instructor and I do the open hand.
So you're combining more, I guess you would consider traditional martial arts self-defense with more of the, I guess, quote-unquote modern Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu style self-defense. How did that like bring that together?
I just thought that, you know, we might want to try and reach out to some people who didn't really feel comfortable rolling around on the mat yet, and, you know, help them see what we do here as far as our self-defense, and letting them know that really this is all culminating towards becoming a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So if you're starting here doing self-defense or even kickboxing or what, that you can, you know, check out a class, hang out with the guys, and join the family here on the mats too, because that is really our main focus at the school. Okay, so once again, starting with a closed guard position here, going for a deep collar grip. I get up for more leverage, more space to reach behind the neck. Again, I'm going to go for that simple scissor sweep, which I know he's got to defend. So once he goes to defend, I pull the arm out. Okay, now I have a lot of weight on this arm here, so I'm going to reach under. My right foot is on his left hip. I'm going to reach under, turn out, bring my knees together, down his spine, and finish with a nice reverse arm lock. So one more time, opening the collar, reaching for a deep grip. Once again, I go for my scissor sweep. I throw the arm to the side. Once he's established, he's put a lot of weight. I hold him down with my collar grip. I reach underneath. The key is my right foot here is on his left hip. So now, as I sweep the arm, I have a lot of leverage and a lot of pressure to finish with a reverse arm lock.
What I like to do is the guy's expecting me to grab an arm, expecting me to do a traditional choke. What I'll do is I'll just put my body weight on him, and I'll grab behind his, by the way, I put my body weight on him. I usually like to put my body weight on one side of my ribs so there's this little square footage of my body weight touching his chest as possible, right? So that I have a lot of weight on him in a small amount of area, small amount of space on my rib. And from here I can actually apply a fair amount of pressure on him. It can be uncomfortable because it's just the corner of my rib is on him. I grab him behind the neck, right? Then what I'll do is I'm gonna put my arm under here. So to do this I have to be off to one side with my hip in and the corner, and I'll even take my knee off just to put as much pressure as I can. I'm not putting that much pressure on his but I grab behind here. He's not thinking about this, he's thinking about his chest. And my arm's here. Then what I do is I let off the pressure. And as I let off the pressure, what does he do? A lot of times the guy comes towards me. I'll do the move quick and then I'll show you. As he comes towards me, I bring my elbow in like this, come around like this, spin. Just a bit. So he's just submitting with one arm on the collar to choke. You're basically using his arm across his neck to choke him. It's not a strength move, it's a weight move. So, like so much in jiu-jitsu, it's about how you position your body weight. I trained with Hoyler when we were blue belts, Kemmel, down in Brazil, wherever you are. And I remember he showing a move on me, laying on me, and I felt like I was going to cry. And he's about 150 pounds. So again, I'm like this, my arm's under his arm, and I'm loosely just holding his collar. And I'm putting weight on the corner of my rib. My knees are off the mat, so most of my weight's on my rib. He's thinking about his chest, he's not thinking about anything else. As I let the weight up, he comes towards me, just a little bit. I pull his elbow, notice as I pull, I'm not pulling here, I'm pulling by his shoulder, right here. And I dig my elbow into his body. I have to move my arm underneath his chin, and I spin. As I spin, I'm pulling his arm around, and he gets choked right away, right? Oh, yeah. So it's a quick choke as I'm pressing my body against his arm. So one more time real quick. Like this. Grab his shoulder. Hard side control. Let off the pressure, he comes towards me. Elbow in tight, grab him behind the shoulder. I gotta move over so I can get my arm under his chin. Spin around. And then I apply the weight. Okay. All right, on three. One.
All right, so we're gonna actually kind of go off of the position Kemmel's working on in this open half guard, Z guard. For beginners, you know, it's the same as your scissor sweep kind of setup. It's just a little bit different positioning, okay? So we're just gonna kind of rock off of this, all right? We're gonna do like a 4 leg lock succession. So we're just gonna go 1, 2, 3. So this way we can work tap, 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 okay? So from here, the first one we're gonna work is just into the heel hook, all right? So be careful. I know a lot of people don't like heel hooks. It's jiu-jitsu, submission to me, all right? So we're here. What we're gonna work is I'm gonna cover that knee. When I cover, a lot of people just fall back and that's where they lose the positioning. I wanna stay hip to hip tight. So when I'm here, I cover this knee and I shoot my legs in here, okay? My other leg's gonna come over, heel in, I pinch. Okay, this is leg lock 1. From here, a lot of guys bring the foot to the other side. So same thing, I wanna stay with that knee. He starts shifting his weight. I come up, I shift my weight, I reposition. Inverted 2. Now they usually kick off the bicep, perfect. I'm gonna turn it into my leg lace. I release 1. I can either double pinch or figure 4. I got the leg lace 1, or we can sit back on the straight 2. Okay, so this way we can just keep chopping his ankles off. All right, so we're here. Cover, all right. If this leg's not in position, we're just gonna slide in, like kind of like the arm lock from knee on belly. Same motion. I got my cover, elbow tight. Shoot the leg in 1. My hips are tight. Key to this is heel here, clamping your legs. Make sure the knee is past your crotch for the leverage point, all right? So from here, I got 1. Guy brings it to the other side. I use my other hand. I cover. I switch my hips. Re-sink in. 2. He pushes. I let him push. I'm going to release my leg. Sometimes you can get in there. You just have more control when I release. Cover. Okay? Watch your feet. That's the leg game. You got to be able to hide your feet also, okay? Pinch my knees tight. I got the lace 1. If I miss that, see how I got the straight in my armpit? Back 2. One more time. And in, got my cover position. Slide. 1. Switch. Readjust 2. He kicks. Feed. 3. 4. Guys understood? Yes, no, maybe? Position. My legs, my knees, everything, it's just like an arm lock. If it's loose, everything else is going to be loose. So I want to cover, and I want to make sure I clamp. Once I clamp, that takes the mobility out. So now from here, when I turn the leg, that doesn't mean I want my whole legs to go with it. I want to be able to keep my knees pointed straight so the knee is locked. From here, my upper body does the torquing. Okay? So if you're loose here, no good. All right? You can't let them both turn with the other. That's why we pinch, because I want to isolate this joint. Here, here. Now it's staying one spot. I got to make sure that I can cover and turn that from there. So once I'm here, I'm in here. Or I can control the leg, come up, come through, and use it as a control point, see?
So we're going to do a move that we can set up from many different places. All right, we can set up from a guillotine, the Carl was showing. We can even set up from the guard that Greg was showing, okay? Basically, all you need to get is actually in this position here, all right? And I like to do is like a variation from a guillotine, because we will have a gi. We can use the gi in our favor. We can use the lapels for us, okay? So basically, we're gonna have almost like a guillotine grip here. But if George sit up a little bit, I'm gonna have one hand here, and the other one's gonna be under the arm and on the opposite collar here, right? It's almost like I wanna go for a guillotine here, but a lot of times when you do this, the hand might wind up popping out. Okay? So what we're gonna do to prevent this, okay, so I'm setting up here, be careful, a very important thing, guys. Don't go too far forward, because he can grab your legs and put you down before you even have time to set up. All right? So you here, I'm putting my weight on him, the second hand goes there. All right? Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna push him forward a little bit. Okay? When he reacts, I'm gonna drive his head towards the other side of my body here. Okay? Now I'm gonna push my hips forward and step up here, just for finish right there. And it's super tight and it's very unorthodox, because the guy's expecting the choke on this side here. So usually when you start pushing the head towards the outside, he goes with it because he's not really expecting it. He wants to get his head away from this side. So when we set up like this, simple, cross the hands, one hand over the shoulders here, the other one under the arm, and you're gonna grab the opposite collars. All right? So I'm here, I'm making a style of pushing weight on him, and then, I step to the side, look, and I push him this way, see? I make room. Now I bring my knee in, and off. Very important, guys, to keep your hips forward. If I'm like this, I create room for him to push his head out. See? So when it's time to go, hips forward and keep driving for the finish. Very lovely. But the look on his face, you can see that's a very powerful choke. Have a lot of leverage there. All right, guys, let's give it a try on 3. 1, 2, 3.